Hey, welcome to another episode of Clear Lake Connections, where we talk to the people behind the businesses of Barry, Houston, proudly sponsored by UTMB Health. Special guest today with the Galveston National Lab is Dr. Gary Kobinger, and you are the director of the facility?
That's correct, sir.
Tell us about this. I don't think a lot of people know about this facility. Tell us what you do there.
A lot of work. So it's mainly focusing on the development and testing of vaccine and therapeutics. It has also a component on, improving our knowledge of not only pathogens that are local, but also that are emerging worldwide. So, and it's to understand how they transmit, how they cause disease, how we can prevent that, how we can even, now a big focus is how we can prevent the jump, as we call it, from, for example, the animal to humans, so that we don't have to interrupt or to prevent infection at the human level, but more before it gets there.
And how long have you been at the facility?
It's only a year. It's been a year and 2 weeks now.
Okay.
Yeah, almost to the day.
So I remember back in the day, I think during the Ebola breakout in Africa, that lab played a significant part in that research. Is that true?
Yeah, that's right, because there is a vaccine that is now licensed that is also offered to lab workers working with the famous or infamous Ebola virus that was developed before the big outbreak in West Africa. Including a lot of work has been done here in Galveston, and that vaccine ended up being rolled out, if you want, in West Africa, and those doses basically were linked to licensing of the vaccine after that, meaning the data showed protection in a real outbreak situation, and this was communicated to the FDA, and then after that, the FDA decided that this was a good vaccine, good safety profile, and saved life. So,
and I hate talking about the C word, but I imagine the lab played a huge role. I know UTMB in general played a huge role in the COVID vaccinations.
That's right, because there was one of the first wave of extended clinical studies. So people that were receiving the vaccine in a large phase 3. When you do those big studies, they need to be multicentric, we say, so there's different sites. Galveston was one of them, and so they play a role for this, but also on the lab side, analyzing the data, making sure those vaccines were working well and actually turned out to be beyond expectations. A lot of that testing was done at UTMB, yeah.
So tell me the history of this facility. How was the site chosen, if you know? I mean, it seems an odd location, but there's got to be a story behind that.
Yes, because Galveston was a big port, and so a lot of people were commuting or arriving at the port, leaving from the port, and so the community, as any other port, were also subjected to infectious diseases, traveling with people coming and leaving, from different locations going there to leave, and then from other locations to arrive in Galveston. So the early days, actually, of the infectious disease community in Galveston came from that, from really being a big port, and it started a culture, if you want, of what I would call terrific top infectious disease knowledge right there.
I would have never thought about that. It makes sense, though. Wherever people are coming in, you're going to have a lot of that going on.
Yeah. Another one is Boston, New York, and look at Boston. Their history in terms of scientific research in infectious diseases is also top in the nation.
So how many of these types of facilities are there in the U.S.?
There is...
Because there's certain levels, right?
That's right. So there's 4 level in lab in our biocontainment lab. So 1 that could be like the room here. 2, that is where usually you protect what you work with. You don't want to contaminate it, so you protect that work from yourself. Level 3 is when you want to protect yourself from a pathogen that can cause severe disease, but for which that could be a vaccine. And level 4 is the ultimate level, where they are pathogen that for which there is rarely a plan B in terms of treatment of vaccines, for which there is no vaccine, no treatment, and they are able to cause severe disease and death, sometimes quickly. And so there's a spectrum of pathogen, some that are causing low, let's say, just a few people out of numbers will get severe disease, but it will transmit more easily. Or a pathogen that doesn't transmit very well, like Ebola, but cause not only severe disease and death in a high proportion of infected individuals, but also it has a strong psychological effect, because it causes hemorrhages, for example. And this can disrupt, including a response from the healthcare system. If healthcare workers start seeing people coming in bleeding, it has a different impact than, and for the community as well. So all this is a bit defining 1 to 4. And so the level 4 are limited in numbers. There's about 10 operating in the U.S. The UK has 3 now. Germany has 5. Canada has 2. And, there is, overall, I think we're at 52 worldwide.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people are traveling again.
Yep.
What are some areas that you would probably take pause if people were going to travel to, and kind of maybe run down what some of the dangers could be in those locations?
There's a lot of different pathogens in different locations that are endemic, and especially when you are not from those areas, you sometimes, as we all know, if you go to areas where, you try to avoid water and milk just because you're not used to it, and you can get sick. The best is really when you travel is to look at the State Department has a great website on recommendation of what to do, what vaccines to consider to go to a travel clinic. Also, they know, and then they ask you, okay, where are you going? Is there malaria? Is there dengue? Is there what's circulating there that could be that could ruin your vacation?
Yeah.
So that's always a great idea to look at that before getting into a trip.
So what are some of the things on the horizon that you're seeing that people need to, or that you guys are actually working on that give pause to maybe somebody like, what are some of the main things that you guys are looking at now? Because it must be hard discovering. I know there's teams that go out and try to discover these pathogens and collect them, but what are some of the things that we should keep an eye on?
Well, for us, we want to have better tools to quickly detect, and that means the challenges are when they are emerging pathogen that we don't have a precise knowledge on. The first time that SARS emerged, well, it was found to be a coronavirus. That took about 3 months of controversy. Was it not? Was it? And that's because we have never seen a coronavirus causing this level of severe disease in the airway, because the coronaviruses that are circulating are common cold viruses. They cause the common cold. So this 3 months window is too long. And with SARS-CoV-2, the benefit we had was the experience with SARS-CoV-1 or SARS, and that the identification that it was a coronavirus that could cause severe disease, came from SARS, and in 24 hours, there was no surprise. We didn't start working on is it really the pathogen that is causing that disease that we're seeing, or is it another pathogen we're missing? So for us, rapid detection is really the A of the ABC of a response, an efficient response. With this goes all the diagnostic that follows. Like, how do you may have very advanced technology to detect, but how do you go from that to spreading that knowledge to thousands and tens of thousands of hospitals for running their tests, so that is immediately a benefit to people that may or may not have, or you could question as maybe infected. So detection, diagnostic, and then of course, what is the ability that we have to develop vaccine and treatment very quickly? And so the White House has released a report where they set the bar quite high, 100 days, which 100 days is long when people are getting sick and potentially dying. So I think at the same time it's good to have the bar very high, because it forces people to really go with innovation and all this. But 100 days, to tell you how hard this is think about the time it takes to go through phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 studies, clinical. That's not even building that vaccine or that medication. It takes, when we did the exercise with grad students, I thought it was a great exercise to show them, okay, how long does a phase 1 take, and 2 and 3, and then they were removing the days, and then they were like, whoa, we have 2 weeks left, to make that vaccine happen.
Yeah.
And so, we're not there yet. This is where the goal is, but I think this is another very important.
Yeah, and I remember having a discussion with one of your colleagues about how, if you look at the AIDS epidemic versus what we've just been through, just the time frame is just so condensed that
That's right.
You guys are making great progress in what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's right. And in all respect to different viruses, we were lucky that coronaviruses are actually, in the field of vaccination, it's not a very challenging target to protect against. If it would have been a virus like HIV, that today we still don't have a vaccine that works, that it would have been a different challenge. So, all this is a good timing also now to realize the little we know about the movement of those pathogens in the animal kingdom and how they jump to humans, how we can prevent that. So there's a lot of work right now that is, and so the concept of what we call One Health. So what is that? Well, it's to not just looking at human disease, it's to look at that human disease comes from an animal. Is this animal sick? Is this causing animal disease as well? And why is this passing to human? Is this because maybe, there was a new village or town or city that was built somewhere where this pathogen was endemic and never caused problem because people just didn't go there. Mm-hmm. By the way, that's how cholera started. It was in a very, very geographically small area where people started going to build and then got exposed to cholera, and then it went worldwide. And
the world's getting smaller.
That's right.
By the day, so I'm guessing that plays into the thought process that you guys have, and like you said, trying to shrink those days that you can identify these things.
That's right. So from detection, diagnostic, the building of vaccine therapeutics, and the entire knowledge of how these diseases all these pathogens are transmitting, and where they are, and what caused them to go from A to B. And this is what we do at the GNL. Really, that's the main focus of all the work.
How did you get into this field?
Very good question. Because now it's a long time ago. But I started actually on HIV, and I thought HIV was very tough. So first I was in love with viruses and microbiology overall. But HIV was different also because I thought it was affecting. At one point, I was 14 years old, and I watched a documentary at the time, and this man was saying he was going to die because he had loved, and I thought that was unacceptable in my 15 years old mind, and I started working on HIV. At the time, then that became more gene therapy because I thought we didn't have the tools, frankly, yet to build a good vaccine against HIV. The virus was changing too fast, mm-hmm. and that brought me to still focus on vaccine. But while at the University of Pennsylvania, we just stumbled upon a very interesting finding on Ebola on one of the protein, not the virus. They don't have a biosafety level 4 there, but on one of the protein. And then I started doing vaccine with that protein, thinking it would be a great target. So then I started doing Ebola vaccination, and then I started to do that. Had to go to work in level 4. So then I started working level 4, and this is how it went.
That's what brought you to Galveston.
That's right, because some of the top scientists, and I'm talking about some of the top 10 scientists in the field of biocontainment level 4 are here in Galveston.
Wow.
Yeah. So, of course, I've known them for over 15 years. We became friends, and frankly, this is why also this is why when I saw the possibility of coming down, I thought, well, first, what am I going to really bring there? Because they're top, they're the top of the top. And the second thing that was making this more also interesting is that they are friends, and I thought it was going to be a good time in addition to accumulate great data.
So 1 year in, and you're happy with the move.
Love the place, yeah. And I've never, I'm from Canada, so I'm from a cold climate. This is my first winter without shoveling snow last winter. That was great. Yeah, maybe I'm getting older too and appreciative of warm environment. But listen, the work has been phenomenal. The place, how great the people are, and why now I see firsthand and a close look at why it is that this place is so good. Because it's not just the scientists, it's all the structure around them that is top. It's a very crazy, well-oiled machine. And what we are trying to me, what it convinced me is that we need to use this to try to help other labs, so that they don't reinvent the wheel, that this place is top. We should be showing them how we do the work so that they can also
so you're sharing best practices with fellow sites.
That's right.
And bring them all up to hopefully that level.
That's what we're trying to do.
Awesome. So you mentioned there's 4 levels. Obviously, the Galveston facility is a level 4. Describe what that means in terms of the physical building and the protocols you have in place there.
Yeah, so it's highly secure in terms of containing the pathogen, and it's highly secure also in terms of access. So people that have access to those pathogen are the people that are clear to work in terms of knowledge, experience, and access on the security side. So really what it is a containment lab, which is not only level 4, it's level 1, 2, 3, and 4, where we work on pathogens that are classified as dangerous, and where we work in conditions that are making sure that those viruses are not going to get out of there, that we can still accumulate knowledge in a safe environment, safe for the workers, safe for everybody. And so the way it works is really the principle of a box in a box. So there's so many layers. So if you go to 4, you have not only physical layers, so a room in a room if you want, and then the pathogen is only worked in containment condition within the lab. But on top of it, you have all the system are overlapping, so that if you have a power failure, we have a direct access to power, including generators, 2 of them, so that if one fails, you have another one. And so we are 3, 4, 5, 6 layers sometimes of overlapping system, that if one fails, we'll have a second one, and then a third one, and a fourth one.
Yeah.
So this is really what the GNL is.
The old 2 is 1 and 1 is none theory, especially on the generator side.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, so when the lab was built, so first historically, there was a lab there. And there was the first level 4 in academic setting was the Shope lab. When the big lab was built in the community, including in the community of level 4 workers, we were like, interesting location for building a level 4 in Hurricane Alley, as we say. But first, every location on this planet has issues. So it could be earthquakes, it could be hurricane, it could be sudden flooding, it could be, and we see now also more storm, being, Canada just had their first hurricane. So there's that. But now that I'm there, I can tell you one thing is this building is so solid that it really is not a big issue. It needs some level of good preparation, which there is every year. So during hurricane season, activity go down. And it's a good time for scientists to write their papers and do other things. But we don't do a lot of work in the lab in those days, just in case, But interestingly, at the last big hurricane, Ike, the 2 generators were offered to the hospital because there was nothing happening in the building. This building is so solid, but the power was able to produce enough energy for the hospital. And the community, as a matter of fact, so if needed. So there's things that are being done every year, just in case there is a disruption, not so much at the building level, but people need to be with their family. We know they won't be expected to work at the lab, so we are ready to shut it down and make sure it's done safely.
So it sounds like you have a really great partnership with UTMB.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of UTMB, and
Okay, so it is part of the UTMB system.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And so we benefit from the GNL, benefit from all the surrounding tools, including their emergency response. As a matter of fact, that is extremely well in place, in my view. They get weekly report of the weather, for example. That is really nice.
Yeah, all the people I've talked to, they love the culture at UTMB. That it's
I agree.
education and thriving and really growth mindset.
Yeah, you can smell the neurons frying when you walk. It's good.
So UTMB is such a good teaching hospital. I presume that you guys partake in that and are really trying to train up the next generation of
absolutely.
researchers.
I mean, the big advantage of having a level 4 in an academic environment is the training part. It's a real mandate, and so it's not only the medical students, but also all the grad students, master, PhD, postdoc. They are the real heart beating within the GNL because they are doing the work, and so training is very important. And in return, it's very important to have those physicians later on to have the knowledge on those dangerous pathogens, so that they can recognize them and treat them with the best tools if they encounter that in the community.
Well, thank you very much for joining us.
You're most welcome.